And now it's time for a segment we like to call Off-Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Van. So, what's going on?
Hey, nothing going on but the rent. You know how it is. So, question, have you ever tried explaining AI or artificial intelligence to the children in your life? Because I have, and it didn't go well. It turns out that most 5-year-olds haven't seen Transcendence or even know who Jarvis is. So, Film Boy here tends to struggle a bit. Luckily, our sponsors this week have you covered with the AI for Kids podcast, the podcast that breaks down complex AI concepts into fun and engaging episodes perfect for kids of all ages, making it accessible, entertaining, and inspiring for your young ones to learn about AI without having to resort to obscure Johnny Depp sci-fi references like me. Each episode of the AI for Kids podcast sees experts in the field dive into fascinating topics like machine learning, robotics, and the future of AI, all tailored to spark young imaginations, with special guests, exciting project and interactive challenges, keeping the learning dynamic and hands-on. So imagine blending education with entertainment to make AI concepts easy and enjoyable, while learning from professionals in AI and tech as they share their knowledge and experiences and invite listeners to participate in challenges and projects that can be tried at home. It's perfect for the kids, fun for the parents too, and even useful for educators, all looking to explore AI together. So whether you're a curious kid eager to learn about robots and algorithms like I was, or maybe you're a parent looking to understand the technology shaping your child's future, AI for Kids is the go-to source for all things AI. So join the adventure into the future on all good podcast platforms today with the AI for Kids podcast. And now, on with the show. The G's finding something in the water, and Inspector Sun's performing an exorcism before dawn. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Hello, and welcome back to Off Screen then. Good week, Van? Been up to much?
I mean, movies, and more movies. You know me. I got nothing in my life but the movies, and I like it that way, so there you go. Right.
That explains why we have got 5 movies to review this week.
More importantly,
which I'm looking forward to. My week, it didn't start off well. Lots of trips to the toilet with a virus that I managed to catch from my son without going into too much detail.
I was going to say TMI, but
yes.
Sure, okay.
Let's put it this way, I can once again trust a fart.
Through the eye of a needle, baby. Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, funnily enough, on the topic of dysentery, let's talk about a World War I drama to start off our week.
All right, then. Before Dawn, then. Let's talk about Before Dawn. It's out in cinemas from today. Take it away, because I don't know much about this.
So this is a World War I story written and directed by Jordan Prince Wright. It follows a young Australian, like an early 20s Australian boy, comes from a farm. I think he's a fictional character named Jim Collins. He's loosely based on some real stories, I believe, but this is his journey from, being an outback, farmhand to going to France and fighting in the trenches, and the relationships that he forms with his fellow soldiers, his relationships with his friends from back home who go to war with him, and but just literally the events of World War I from the perspective of this somewhat innocent youth. Now, he's played by Levi Miller. Do you remember Levi Miller at all? Does the name sound familiar at all?
The name sounds really familiar, but I could not tell you where I've heard it.
He was Peter Pan in 2016 in that god-awful Pan movie with Hugh Jackman. You know the one where Hugh Jackman was singing Nirvana, where he had the crowd chanting "Smells Like Teen Spirit"? Like that one. He was that one.
I know.
But he also starred in Better Watch Out, which is one of my favourite Christmas movies, the Christmas horror movie, in which he stars with Ed Oxenbould, and they are reunited here. So you get both of them in this. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me give you a clip. This is a little bit of a snippet from Before Dawn.
So, you're buggering off to the war with legs and Don? I can shoot.
Think I'll be valuable.
You're valuable here, Jim.
We'll come to your farm when this all blows over, eh?
It's not what it's cracked up to be.
Get down!
What was the war?
So how do you boys want to go then? Bullet, shell, gas?
I'll be going home, thank you very much.
She can get married. I'm going to be his best man.
Yeah, if he's lucky.
If we beat the Germans here, they'll run all the way back to Germany.
We win this together. We go home together.
One thing I must say about this movie is the cinematography looks incredible.
Now, this is the weird thing, because it is a really good-looking film, but it's also been quite cleverly put together to save money. So there's a lot of locked shots, for instance, like where they noticeably only cover a scene from a certain number of angles because they don't save them having to build the full trench. For instance, like they'll build one wall and just sort of shoot around it, but in a way that's convincing enough that you don't, the average popcorn audience member is not especially going to feel shortchanged by it. And that saved money does then go on the bigger, open field kind of sequences, like when they go over the top and things, which happens a few times and things like that. It very much, it fits nicely into the pantheon of War is Hell, World War I dramas. Obviously, it's not going to be a patch on 1917 because the bar was set a little high there. If we're honest, most people love 1917. It's kind of the definitive. It's like that, and is it All Quiet on the Western Front was World War One as well, wasn't it? But these are the definitive.
Was
Go on.
1917, is that the one that Harry Styles was in?
No, that was Dunkirk. He was in Dunkirk, which was World War II.
See, this looks a lot like Dunkirk, actually, as far as the filming. It reminds me a lot of Dunkirk.
How dare you compare anything to the work of Christopher Nolan, sir? Christopher bloody Nolan. You wash your mouth out with soap. I am disgusted.
Obviously, they're aspiring to be. That's all it is, aspiration.
Absolutely. Now, you do get that, as I say, Miller, Oxenbould, Better Watch Out reunion, which is a bit short-lived for my taste. I was very curious to see an adult version of both of these actors. I didn't know they were this old now. Levi Miller, incidentally, in his adult years, still has that girly scream from Better Watch Out. He has quite a distinctive girly scream that you hear in this. We're like, that is natural. He doesn't put that on then. Oh, okay then. So it's like I say, it's clearly been quite conservatively put together to save money, etc. But it's not ineffective. As I say, it's really well done in that regard. You can see the money has been allocated rather well. It's very gamely performed, but the very by the numbers sort of war drama plotting never particularly hooks you or elevates the material past it being just a boilerplate young boy goes to war tale. And they are kind of a dime a dozen, but if you're into that particular subgenre or that particular story trope, I don't think you're going to feel underserved by this. And I feel like Miller is a compelling enough presence in this. The story works. It's just nothing you haven't seen before, but it is done fairly well.
Before Dawn, out in cinemas from today. All right, let's move on to a family animation comedy. Let's look at Inspector Sun. This looks like the sort of thing I would enjoy, actually.
This is bonkers, and I've been so looking forward to talking to you about it. So, Inspector Sun and the Curse of the Black Widow, I believe, is the full title of this. The title makes no sense because there's nothing even resembling a curse in the movie. This is an animated movie. I believe it's a Spanish director. It's sort of partially set in Shanghai. The central character is Asian, but the rest of the story takes place on a flight from Shanghai to San Francisco. Right, brace yourself for this. Ronnie Cheng from The Daily Show, Mithrigan, Crazy Rich Asians, Ronnie, he was in Shang-Chi as well, is the voice of Inspector Sun. Inspector Sun is basically Poirot. Except he's an animated spider, because everybody in this world is an animated insect. They live in the world of humans, but we follow the insects. It's kind of like Toy Story in that way. And he is on his flight going to Chicago, having been suspended from his job for being a bit of a show-off and a bit inept and causing a massive explosion, when a murder takes place on the plane. And a rich guy named, I think his name is Gil Tay, they say it as guilty, but it's Gil Tay, is murdered, and his wife, a Black Widow spider, is immediately presented as the suspect, and it falls to Inspector Sun and a sort of fangirl who he meets along the way to solve the case. It's literally an Agatha Christie movie for kids. This thing, even in its ending, they set this up for another case in the exact same way that Murder on the Orient Express did in 2017, the Ken Branagh one. So Poirot for kids, with animated insects. Have a listen to this.
Son, we need you. There's been a murder.
We're not looking for one killer, but two. Maybe three. Do I hear four?
Four? It was her.
Someone clearly doesn't want you looking into this Bugsy case.
I know someone tried to off me. Don't panic.
Arabella, you're putting us both in terrible danger.
Save me, son.
Let's go, partner. Stop in the name of the law.
I have a question. Is it as funny as it looks and sounds? Because there's a lot of animated family comedies that claim to be, but they're a bit, nah.
Right, I found it funny, but I'm in two minds with this one. Right, okay, it's wild. I can't believe this exists, because whoever went into any studio's, conference room and pitched, we want to make Murder on the Orient Express for children with insects. That person is clearly insane, and I'm here for it. Having said that, I did watch this and find myself thinking, would children actually go along with this? Because it's funny, but it's literally a Poirot mystery, and they've not skipped any of the procedural elements to it. Like, it really is plotted out exactly like a Ken Branagh, or David Suchet Poirot thing. Ronnie Cheng as a sort of contemporary celeb insect Poirot, as I say, that's pretty fun voice casting. You can hear in the clip there, like his voice fits that sort of energy very well. But the thing I appreciated the most about this movie was the animation of it. So it's 3D animated, computer animated as we used to call it, and there are some really impressive element and particle effects in there, like elements like water and dust and things like that, and shadow. The way that's been done, you're like, oh, this is a cut above what we normally see of these things. When we get these sort of lower tier, usually European-made, sort of cheap and cheerful animated films, they're usually quite ropey, and I make the comment a lot of the time that they look like an iPad game. Yeah, this is not one of those. The animation on this is actually very strong. Character design works quite well. The sort of action set pieces of it, for the most part, do play with real energy and real flow. One or two of them do fall a bit flat here and there, but for the most part, actually quite impressive. It's one of those things I could see this like appearing on a Corridor Crew episode and them dissecting it when they do next animation specials. I could see this coming up because it's very interesting on an animation and VFX level. Having said that, although I enjoyed it, and I say it's 88 minutes long, including credits, so let's say an hour and 20 minutes, I would be genuinely fascinated to see how Albert would respond to watching it whilst you were giggling your ass off naturally. But I would imagine he would go along with it because it's quite bright and colourful and adventurous. But I do think that the heavy emphasis on the typical Agatha Christie-style procedural elements might prove a bit of a barrier for kids.
By the way, while we're on the subject of my son, we watched the first Inside Out at the weekend. He loved it. Absolutely brilliant.
Yes, I will bet.
So, yeah. Can't wait to see the second one. But if you want to check this out, Inspector Sun and the Curse of the Black Widow, well, you can, because that is also out in cinemas from today. Still to come, we're going to look at the new Exorcism. We're going to look at Something in the Water and The G. All still to come. Stay right where you are. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen. Let's dive straight into our next movie then and see what Van thought about Something in the Water. I remember chatting to you at the end of last week's show about this, and is this just another shark movie?
Just another shark movie? No, I think you'll find this is, another shark movie. And yes, it is another shark movie. Although, apparently there's a rumour going around this week that the one we talked about last week, Under Paris, that's getting a sequel. So, and given the way that movie ends, and it ends very well, I'm looking forward to seeing what that involves, because I really liked Under Paris. This one, I didn't like as much as Under Paris, but I still rather liked it. Okay, do you remember...
Sorry, I've just thought the title, Under Paris, could be another movie, really, if you think about it.
Okay, first of all, I am one of the people who, in the early 2000s, bought a DVD copy of One Night in Paris, if that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
My girlfriend at the time was a really big Paris Hilton fan. Don't hold that against her. She was very lovely otherwise. Anyway, neither here nor there. We're talking about the shark movie, right? Very different movie.
Yeah.
Right, so Something in the Water, new movie, written by Kat Clark and directed by Hayley Easton Street. Do you remember Open Water for about 20 years? Did you ever see Open Water?
Oh, I think I might have done, actually. Yeah, if it was that a really bad shark movie?
It was a really bad shark movie, but its whole hook was that it was based on a true story. And it was the couple who went out on the boat, and they lost the boat, and they were swimming in the boat, like floated away or whatever. They were stuck in the water, and the shark circled them, and 90 minutes later, the shark ate them. And leaving you with two sensations, the first being, what the hell did I just watch? Why? And the second being, well, if they both died, how did you know what happened in this supposedly true story? Anyway, this owes a bit of a debt to that. Follow my logic on this one. So it's about 5 friends. They're all young women in sort of the latter half of their 20s. They are reunited. They've all sort of gone on to their own lives, but they're all still quite close friends. They are reunited for a destination wedding in the Dominican Republic. One of their number is getting married. You'll hear her in the clip in a moment. She's the very trembly one in the clip. They have disagreements between, like, different ones have different, like, feuds and things like that. And 2 of them get deposited on... They take a boat trip one day to a remote sort of little desert island, right? Just for a sort of a hangout day, the day before the wedding. And it's largely a ruse so that 2 of them can patch up their differences. While they are there, however, one of their number gets unexpectedly bitten I think it's in the shin or the thigh, on the leg, and is very profusely bleeding. So they get her out the water, they tend to, and they realise this looks an awful lot like a shark bite. Did you bring us into shark-infested waters? Oh, God. So, of course, they pile right back on the boat and shoot off back to the mainland. However, about 10 seconds after they do start shooting off to the mainland, they hit one of the many rock beds that are, or coral reefs that are around this island, put a hole in the boat, and it's starting...
Of course they do.
And it's starting to sink. Enter the open water comparison, where instead of an annoying couple in the water being surrounded by sharks, this time it's 5 young women, one of whom is about to bleed to death. I've got a clip for you. Have a listen. This is a lot of tension in this kind of clip.
We need to keep our leg out of the water, just in case. Okay, between the 4 of us, we're going to be fine, but we do need to be ready because we don't have much time.
Okay, yeah, we've got this. We can do this. Right?
Yeah, of course we can. Lizzie, I know it's really scary, but I need you to snap out of it, okay? Lizzie, we can't do this without you. Lizzie, we need you.
For sake, get a ramp.
Don't make me come over there.
Come.
What? Why should she get a free pass to Panicville? We're all in the same boat here, okay?
Lizzie, are you even listening to me?
What? I don't know what you're saying.
I can't swim.
Oh dear, that's the last words you want to hear, isn't it, really? It sounds like a bit of a thriller.
It's in my notes, genuinely, lols OFC, of course the bride can't swim. Because of course she can't, otherwise, it's not barely a movie. Right, 86 minutes long, this. Okay, and weirdly, by complete coincidence, it takes exactly 26 minutes to get to... get all the setup done and get to the actual inciting incident, and here we are, we're off and running. So it's basically a solid hour once you get a solid hour once the action is in place. The first 2 acts of it are light years better than Open Water. I will say that. It doesn't quite compare to my personal favourite shark film of the past few years, which is The Shallows, which the final 10 minutes of this nick wholeheartedly from, minus the engaging presence of Steven Seagal, obviously. But I rather like this. It is a cheap and cheerful, tight and tidy, quite packed but lean shark thriller with these just 5 boilerplate unknown horror genre actors. You get the boilerplate cast, so you get the final girl. Every horror movie has to have a final girl. She's the one that you usually see experiencing trauma at the beginning of the film. If a young woman experiences trauma at the beginning of a horror movie, she's your final girl. Okay, that's how it works. That's the rule. The archetype is the final girl. They don't necessarily have to be the final one or alone, but they're referred to as the final girl. So you get the final girl, you get the bride, you get the bitchy one, you get the fun one, you get the high maintenance one. You know what I mean? It's that level of character structure.
It's one of the textbook.
Literally textbook. Like, as if AI could have come up with it, except it was, it's Cat Clock. I did quite like this. I mean, I'm not just saying that because they won me over with an S Club 7 Reach needle drop, which more movies need to do. More movies need to drop Reach by S Club 7. More S Club 7 in movies, please. Just make it believable that young people go to sort of trashy, kind of sleazy clubs and they play, like, crap cheesy pop like S Club. Like, more of that, please. There is a little bit of some dodgy CG with the sharks later on, but the bulk of the movie sees Haley Easton Street wringing out quite a lot of effectiveness out of the age-old Steven Spielberg don't show the shark trick, like Jaws, like, don't show the shark. That's where the magic happens. The magic is in not showing it, and they do very well with that. They managed to make the sharks a lot more menacing by embracing the Jaws, theology of don't show the shark. But when they then do,
suspension of disbelief, is that what it's called?
I think it's just suspense, really. I think we very much believe in sharks. I don't know anyone that doesn't believe in sharks. I don't think anyone's suspending their belief in sharks on this one. It's just that when the actual sharks do appear, you don't believe them that much because they're very obviously CGI. You know what I mean? But
ouch.
Very fun.
I mean, that was going to be one of my questions. I was going to say, was it a shark that made you go, whoa? But actually, obviously not.
It's actually two sharks, by the way. They're actually surrounded by two sharks. So as we're told at one point, one shark is unfortunate, two is just careless. And it's a very boilerplate 3-star kind of. You will watch this on streaming. I know it's in cinemas this weekend, but 95% of people who see this are going to see it on streaming. And when you do, if you double bill it with Under Paris, that's a good Sunday afternoon in my books. I think not as good as The Shallows, but better than Open Water is what I would say. Definitely light years better than Open Water.
Well, There's Something in the Water is out in cinemas from today if you want to check it out for a good old shark killer, whatever you want to call it, movie. Right, still to come, The G on the way, and we're going to talk about the new Exorcism movie in just a second. Stay where you are.
And now we return to our cherished segment, Off Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Van. So, what's going on?
The usual. I tell you what, though, we've been talking a lot lately about Inside Out 2, and given the box office receipts, it's very likely you may have already seen it yourself by now, with Pixar continuing to explore the complexities of our inner emotional lives, which ties in rather perfectly with our sponsors this week, Equanima. Equanima is a groundbreaking company dedicated to enhancing emotional intelligence and well-being. Just like Inside Out, Equanima helps you understand and manage your emotions, promoting a deeper self-awareness and healthier emotional responses. And they've just launched a Kickstarter campaign to bring even more innovative tools to life and making emotional well-being accessible to everyone through games and tools for self-discovery. By supporting their Kickstarter, you're not just backing a product, but a movement towards a more emotionally connected world. To learn more, search for Equanima on Kickstarter and join us in this journey towards better emotional health. Or visit mooxie.io/offscreen. That's spelled MOOXI.io/offscreen. And that's Equanima, spelled EQUANIMA. And so it's a big thanks to our sponsors this week at Equanima. Don't forget to check out Inside Out 2 meanwhile, which is just scooping up money in cinemas everywhere. But for now, back to the show.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Let's dive straight into our next movie in all of his glory. Russell Crowe stars in The Exorcism.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's not forget, I think it's been less than a year since Russell Crowe starred in The Pope's Exorcist, in which he was an exorcist in the priest gear with the dodgy Italian accent riding a Vespa. I sadly have not had the chance to watch that yet, and I feel like I'm missing out because everyone who's seen it says it's hilariously bad, and I'm missing out. Having seen this, which is also hilariously bad, I have to believe I was in fact missing out. I should have double billed these two. Right, Russell Crowe is an actor. Tony, He's a sort of an actor who's overcoming the death of his wife and a serious drinking problem that has given him an estranged relationship with his teenage daughter, Lee, who is played by... Oh, what's she played by now? I can't remember the name of the young actress. She is played by Ryan Simpkins, that's it, sorry. And he takes on a role replacing another actor on a film production of an unnamed film. I think it's just called The Georgetown Project. That is not so subtly, very clearly meant to be a remake of The Exorcist. Like, it's very obvious that it's meant to be a remake of The Exorcist. As a bit of trivia, incidentally, this movie is co-written and directed by Joshua John Miller, whose father was the actor Jason Miller, best known for playing Father Karras in The Exorcist. So... Yes, I don't think that's unintentional. I think it's very intentional. Right, so Russell Crowe's the actor with all these, personal demons, takes on the role in this exorcism movie, and no sooner has he stepped onto set than weird things start to happen. He starts to exhibit strange behaviour. His loved ones, his friends are all starting to get worried about him. Is he going too method? Is the stress getting to him? Or is there something supernatural afoot? Have a listen to this clip in which his daughter, played by Ryan Simpkins, as I say, encounters him having sleepwalking, effectively stood in the kitchen in the middle of the night.
Tony?
Sleepwalking.
You scared me.
I'm sorry.
I'm just a bit stressed, I think, baby.
Yeah, you've got a big day coming up.
I do.
Yeah.
Cheese and rice. I don't care about him sleepwalking. That almost blew my eardrums.
Yeah, it's quite a shocking moment, isn't it? If you see the audio form levels, there's a massive volume spike on that as well. So they do try being a little coquettish about what the movie within a movie is that they're making. I hilariously, I couldn't resist. The first thing I did when I finished this movie is I had to text Kermode. I'm like, right, am I imagining it? Or are they remaking The Exorcist? Is the movie within a movie The Exorcist? And even he came away, yes, very clearly also, the son of the actor in the film, and they make reference to Georgetown, things like that. Like, oh God, yeah, he hated this more than I do. This is, as I say, hilariously bad. Just wonderfully, like, laugh out loud, cackling on the edge of your seat, bad. As such, I can't say I didn't enjoy it, because when a film is so bad it's good? This is one of those. Very much one of those. Like, no one's putting this in the... This is not going on Russell Crowe's Mount Rushmore. You know what I mean? This is not going alongside Gladiator and A Beautiful Mind on anyone's top 5 Russell Crowe movies list. Certain things in it I find a bit weird. There's a lot of wasted casting in there. There's a lot of casting quite, well-chosen actors for roles that they don't do anything with or they don't appear for very long. I will excuse David Hyde Pierce from that, Niles from Frasier, because he plays the on-set priest, and he's, it's fine. He gets a decent amount of screen time. But Adam Goldberg as the director, Sam Worthington as one of the other actors in the film, and certainly Samantha Mathis, who gets a big red heart emoji in my notes, by the way, they just feel wasted. Absolutely wasted. So it's intertitled with shoot days, like shooting day number 1, shooting day number 11, things like that. So it's broken down that kind of way. Visually, interesting enough, if a little bit orange. Like, everything seems to be orange. Can't figure that one out. Like, they've chosen to color grade this, so everything is, in fact, just kind of a light orange. There's a gimmick with a film set that's meant to be the house from The Exorcist. Effectively, it's the bedroom. You know the famous bedroom from The Exorcist where the little girl's on the bed, she does the head spin, etc. In order to do that for the purposes of the film they're making, they've built it inside a freezer, effectively, with an open side, so that the actors can have cold breath and things like that. And they use that gimmick very well. Like, that is quite well done. I like that idea. Having said that, I mean, I've got to watch The Pope's Exorcist because I cannot imagine for 1 second that there is anything in it anywhere near as silly as the manner in which Russell Crowe performs an actual exorcism in this movie. I'm not going to tell you what it involves because it's a spoiler, but good Lord, this is the dumbest, most lantern-jawed... There have got to be Catholic priests just sat around some sort of big meeting table in the Vatican right now being all like, we need to do something about Russell, guys. This is getting a bit much. Like, this latest one, no. You know what I mean? It's very much got that vibe. It's also got one of the weirdest segues I've ever seen in a movie. Right. To explain this, I'm going to need to give you a brief, 20-second backstory. Once upon a time, my friend John Colson and I had a tradition. Every Boxing Day or the 27th of December, either one, every year we would go to a movie. We would go out for brunch at the local leisure park in Sheffield, at the Entertainment Park. And we would go for brunch at Frankie and Benny's or Coast or something like that. And when we were done, we'd go across to Cineworld, go across the street to Cineworld, and we would just see whatever the first movie was that we wanted to see that was on. And we saw some bangers and we saw some that were less so. On this occasion, we saw one that was less so. It was 47 Ronin, starring Keanu Reeves, which I think is from 2013. Terrible movie. Terrible, terrible movie. So badly written that at one point, about half an hour, 40 minutes into it, when a bunch of bad guys are coming after Keanu Reeves and all of his mates, Keanu Reeves says, and I am paraphrasing, "By the way, I'm magic." And then he goes off and does a load of supernatural stuff, uses a load of superpowers that have not been mentioned in the movie at this point, and takes out all the bad guys. It's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in a movie. And ever since, John Colson and I have always referred back to, "By the way, I'm magic." Like, if you ever want to just justify any old nonsense, just go, "By the way, I'm magic." This movie, no joke, and I wrote it down. I genuinely wrote this down. And I think this is close to a direct quote. "By the way, I'm sorry to hear you were molested as a child." That's the thing, they just drop into it. They just drop that in. They just turn to Russell Crowe at one point, about 20 minutes in this movie. "Oh, by the way, I'm really sorry to hear you were molested as a child." Then they just carry on. Wait.
What? That is bizarre.
Wait, what? Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It adds absolutely nothing to the story. I think within the context of the story, it's meant to be that he has a lack of faith because of childhood trauma brought on by a priest who molested him. Fair enough. But they make so little out of it that the line, "By the way, I'm sorry to hear you were molested as a child," just seems odd. And it's just one component amongst many that comprise a film so hilariously bad that it literally tips over into being quite fun and enjoyable. It might be one of the worst films of the year, but you'll have a good time watching it.
Yeah, see, some of the movies that are really bad do that. It makes them fun, funny, and it gives you a want to watch them just because people say that they're so bad. So I guess this is one of them.
Well, to this day, repertory screenings of Showgirls nearly always sell out. Or The Room, for instance. Bad movies do sell, surprisingly. But I don't think this is going to be a huge hit this weekend. It's arguably the sort of big hitter this weekend. I don't see it setting the box office alight or getting some of that Inside Out 2 money. But you know what? Russell Crowe, presumably this goes towards paying off some of his divorce, but hats off to him. Do you know, if he wants to keep doing this exorcism shtick, I'd rather he did it with a silly accent, because that's always funny. But fair enough. At least I had a good time watching it. Wasn't a good movie, but I had a good time.
Well, there you go. If you want to laugh at an incredibly rubbish movie, go and see The Exorcism in cinemas from today. Final ride, then. We're going to look at The G, which is a crime thriller. We'll see what Van thought of that in just a minute. Stay there. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen then for one last ride. We are going to look at crime thriller The G, which I don't really know much about, if I'm honest. I think it's about an old woman that's seeking revenge on someone.
Right, you are right. It is in fact about an old woman that is seeking revenge on someone. But the title The G Like, sight unseen does suggest some sort of urban crime drama. It sounds like a gangster rap style thriller, doesn't it? The G. Like, it feels like you call a movie The G when it stars 50 Cent. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like 50 Cent is the G. You know, it seems like the poster. Alas, very different film. This stars Dale Dickey, who is one of those actresses that you'd know her face. She's memorable. She's very distinctive. And you would know her to see her, but you probably wouldn't know her name. She's been in things like Winter's Bone, Hell or High Water, Iron Man 3, weirdly. She appears in the Midwest, the Tennessee scenes in Iron Man 3. She's the woman in the bar whose son was killed that Tony Stark investigates. She usually plays a sort of a redneck character, or a redneck or sort of old white trash lady kind of a character. And she plays on that here. So she is Anne Hunter, a seemingly ordinary, albeit rather ill-tempered and misanthropic grandmother. Hence, the G, because that's what her family refer to her as, the G, because she writes notes for them with just G, signed G. So they call her the G. One night, and this is loosely based on the real world phenomena of this. You may well know someone this has happened to. I do, in which you've got Anne and her husband, who is not in the best of health. She's his sole carer, and one night, in the middle of the night, they are visited by social services who take them from their home under a guardianship agreement, put them in an old folks' home for their own good, and under the terms of their guardianship, sell their home to fund their care and all this stuff. But in actuality, it's not 2 minutes before their supposed guardian reveals that actually he's something of a deviant huckster, and this is all a massive scam to just fleece unsuspecting, vulnerable older people from their life's possessions. And when her husband dies as part of this, it then quickly emerges that Anne is actually very far from just an ordinary, innocuous old lady. She's something a lot more ruthless. And she sets out for very, very bloody revenge. Have a listen.
This is how it works. A guardian finds old people who are isolated, who have money.
Dad, you're a tough old lady. Locked up like animals.
Just listen to your guardian. Get along with them, you'll be okay.
What are you gonna do now?
We have to fight back.
No money, no home. What would you do? It's not a Christian country anymore. There's no place for the poor, the sick, the old. Everyone's out for himself.
Businessmen, politicians, gangsters. Sometimes it's hard to tell them apart.
Has this got a touch of the Kingsman in it, like where she's going to come out and know every single martial art known to man?
No, it's nowhere near that level of exploitation. It's just she's clearly done some stuff in her past, kind of a thing, like she knows people, kind of an idea. Right, I really enjoyed this. It's not, like I say, it's not quite as sensationalist as it could be, because plot-wise, it's very similar to Nobody. In a way, do you remember Nobody with Bob Odenkirk, where he was the sort of everyday, ordinary guy, but actually he wasn't? And that was made by the John Wick guys, so it went exactly as sensationalist as it needed to. This does not go down that road at all with the sensationalist. That being said, it goes really bleak and really brutal with the violence at times. I mean, there is a moment in which a character that you wouldn't expect to be killed off is quite unceremoniously killed off, but done so in such a grisly and horrible, just instantaneous, nonchalant way that you're just like, wow, okay, this film is not messing around. It's a bit of a slow burn. It's 106 minutes. It's about an hour and 3/4. Minus credits is about an hour and 40. Dickey is absolutely brilliant in it, but she always is good. In a just world, Dale Dickey would have the exact same career standing as Tommy Lee Jones, because they're very similar performers. They've even got the same exact craggy face in a strange way. Cast Dale Dickey as Tommy Lee Jones's either spouse or sibling in a movie. Please, I'm here for that. It's also got, on a writing level, because it's written and directed by Carl R. Hearn. whose work I wasn't overly familiar with. He's only done 2 movies, I think, before this. Touched and Song, I think they're called. I don't know either of them. I would be intrigued to check them out after this, because I found the writing here, like I say, not sensationalist, going for something a lot more hard-boiled, really interesting. So you get, for instance, the henchman of your big bad, of this criminal guardian type. And the level of humanization and character development that is afforded these characters is very unusual for this type of film. Like, you see a side of these characters that you really wouldn't expect. And you certainly wouldn't in something like, for instance, the more sensationalist take of Nobody, for instance, like that. But I say, compellingly hard-boiled and just brutal in that bleakness and violence. I really enjoyed it. I really did. I just say, I don't think you're going to have people cheering in a multiplex on a Saturday night for it, but if you did go and see this in a multiplex on a Saturday night, I think you would come away going, wow, that was something quite different. That was raw. That was nasty. I like that. It takes its time to get there, but when it does, wow, it goes from 0 to 60. It really does. I'll say, I was a big fan of this.
I'd say there was a bit of Mick Jagger in Dale Dickey as well, if I'm quite honest.
Well, I said craggy face. I already said craggy face.
You did. Well, if you want to check it out, The G is out in cinemas from today. All right, so we'll look at next week's movies in a second. First, movie of the week, Van Connor, what are you going for?
I'm gonna give it to The G. I think The G is... Yeah, the G works for me. I think that's the one. If I was going to watch anything from this week again... Putting aside that I will watch something in the water, during a hangout sesh with the boys kind of thing. Like, it's one of those things you put on in the background whilst the guys are hanging out kind of thing. Or I would watch The Exorcism as a so bad it's good, let's watch this on crap movie night kind of a thing. But The G is the movie that I will watch again first. Definitely.
Okay, well, let's look at next week then. So we've got Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1 to look at for next week. I don't know anything about this
I know you
at all.
don't, so brace yourself for this. So, do you know that Kevin Costner has been on a TV show for the last, 4 years? Do you know this?
No.
He's been starring on a series called Yellowstone, which is run by Taylor Sheridan, who wrote Sicario and those kind of Wind River, movies like that. Like, he's very much a sort of modern cowboy type writer, is Taylor Sheridan, and his work reflects that. Kevin Costner was his star on Yellowstone, and then he unceremoniously quit this past year to go and make a movie, and they wouldn't allow him. They wouldn't restructure their timetable for him, so he went off in a huff. He just quit. He went and made, no joke, a 4-part movie. 4 movies to tell one story that he funded himself, that he stars in, that he's written, that he's directed, and that his bloody son is in as well. And this is the first part of that. And it's literally an old school Western, because Kevin Costner and Westerns, who knew? So we're going to see the first one of these. The second, I think, is out later in the summer. Like, it's August, September kind of stuff. They're releasing these literally months apart. You're going to have 4 epically long. How long is the first one? Let me find you the length of the first one. Horizon, an American Saga Part 1, is 3 hours and 1 minute long, and it's only a quarter of the story.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, so we've got that to look forward to. They describe it as a multifaceted 15-year span of pre- and post-Civil War expansion and the settlement of the American West. Well, if anyone can make it work...
When they said 15-year span, they weren't joking.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the runtime. That's the runtime of all 4 movies, is 15 years. Exactly that. We have also next week got Eternal You, which is a new documentary from Dogwoof that is... And this actually is a Black Mirror episode. It sounds like a Black Mirror plot, but it actually is a Black Mirror episode. And it is about a company that uses AI to recreate the personalities of deceased loved ones for, grieving families, which I can see the benefit and the horror of simultaneously. So I'm really looking forward to that. We have also, of course, got Yorgos Lanthimos' new movie next week. I swear it's been 5 minutes since Poor Things, right? Like, what month are we? We're in June. It's only 5 months.
Mid-June now.
5 months since Poor Things, his last film, opened. Kind of Kindness with Emma Stone, that opens next week as well. There is Rose, which is a French dramedy about two bickering sisters who go on a coach trip to Paris. And I think it's the journey, literally them bickering through the journey, I believe is the focus of it. And the Irish animated movie, A Greyhound of a Girl, which I think it stars Sharon Horgan, has the voice talents of Sharon Horgan in there. So I'm intrigued. Sharon Horgan's usually got a pretty good quality marker. So let's see.
Yeah, some good ones to look forward to next week. And that is, of course, when we will be back. That is all we've got time for this week. I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Dan Connor, and we shall return.